Good evening, America. Welcome to the show. We got a good show tonight. I've had some technical difficulties the past couple of days. I'm dealing with this software that creates all these cool little odds and ends and features, but they're kind of a nightmare to deal with if you ever have any problems. So here we are. It's actually a really good software when it is functioning properly, but that's neither here nor there. I want to try to have a good show. I'm here. I'm on. I think maybe I finally have figured it out, and they've been just actually completely useless to me, to be quite frank. I'm not going to release the name of the software, at least not yet. I'm waiting for them to get back to me. However, they just keep giving me the runaround and sending me nonsense instructions that don't do anything. So tonight we are going to talk about a couple of things. Number one, Mitch McConnell is just kind of MIA, man. I mean, I think he may have had a heart attack. We were all anticipating that he was dead or that he did die. And then we couldn't hear anything about it. So then there was an announcement that a senator had passed away, and that senator was not Mitch McConnell. It was Lindsey Graham, which was even equally as shocking. Didn't anticipate that one coming. 71 years old is young in 2026, especially for somebody who is prominent and has access to good health care and healthy food. It's something you don't really see at that age. So sudden illness, sudden death. Then we have the MOU, or the Memorandum of Understanding with Iran, is done and it is dead. And Donald Trump has come out and said that he believes it's over with and that it's just not going to go anywhere. And I think that's it. That's it for tonight. The war with Iran is back on. Mitch McConnell is, I think, still in the hospital. And Lindsey Graham has passed away. Terrible news for the Graham family. I didn't really agree with him politically. I always hate to hear when someone passes away, regardless of how much I get along with them politically or not, or even if I don't like them or we're enemies. I do not like to hear the death of another person. It's something every last one of us are going to face. The only thing that you can do in this world and be certain of one thing, and that certain one thing is that we're all going to the grave. Every last one of us. And we all do things in life that maybe some people don't like. I'm sure I've done a million things that certain people don't like. I'm sure that that happens to everybody. And regardless of your circumstance or where you grew up, you may have a different opinion. But I don't celebrate death. I mourn death regardless of who it is. It's a general rule that I have. So The View came out on Lindsey Graham. I did not watch this. Look at that face. Just look at that face. And this is a long video, but I'm sure we're not going to watch the whole thing. But let's hear what Whoopi Goldberg had to say.
Federal buildings have been lowered to half-staff to honor the loss of South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham, who died suddenly this weekend at 71. He sat at the table here several times over the years, and he leaves behind a complicated legacy. So some of you knew him. Some of you knew him well. What do you remember?
Well, I knew him very well. He was a friend of mine for many years. Frankly, through John McCain, who was his best friend and his mentor for many years. First thing I want to say is I saw a lot of posts online this week kind of celebrating his death and rejoicing. And listen, I know that Trump does that. He did it with Bob Mueller. He did it with John McCain.
He did it with Rob Reiner.
He did it with Rob Reiner. But it's inhumane, and it's really lacking empathy. And the dead person's dead and can't hear you and can't read your post. But his family, his sister, who he adopted when she was 13 because both their parents died, is alive and is hearing it. And so I think that for the benefit, for humanity, for having, you know, a normal decency towards the family of the dead, that just has to stop. The fact that Donald Trump is indecent doesn't mean the rest of us have.
Yeah, but Donald Trump, so here, yeah, he did that with Rob Reiner and a couple of other people, which I did not like and which I opposed when he did it. But with Lindsey Graham, he did not. We're going to try to get to that post. I think I have it saved, where he came out and made an announcement about a wonderful person he is and ordered the flags at half-mast. So they're taking previous incidents to crap on Donald Trump for this instance. Yeah, Donald Trump has said bad things about people who have passed away, but there's been people who have tried to literally put him in jail or ruin his presidency or just destroy him and his family and has attacked his family. So I have a different stance. I have general rule. I don't celebrate anybody's death. I really don't care who they are or what they've done. But the View is taking this and blaming Trump, even though Trump praised Lindsey Graham, which was shocking to most of us. I anticipated Donald Trump to come out swinging at Lindsey Graham.
To do it. But as to Lindsey, look, for me, there was a Lindsey before Trump and a Lindsey after Trump. There were, you know, two completely different Lindseys. And this brought out all sorts of feelings in me because, honestly, I felt like I had buried Lindsey when John McCain died because he became just a completely different person. And I get it. I get it that people are brokenhearted. I'm brokenhearted. I get it that people were disappointed in him. I'm disappointed in him. I think Lindsey, you know, for Lindsey, the Senate, his position was his life. He really felt that making a difference was everything for him, and he was going to do anything that it took for him to continue getting elected and having influence. And that took sucking up to Trump, and it meant that he did keep getting reelected and that he did have influence on issues that he cared enormously about, like foreign policy. He was a staunch, unwavering supporter of Ukraine, of Israel, on freedom in the Western Hemisphere in places like Cuba, like Venezuela, like Nicaragua. He was also so freaking funny. He was, I mean, I know it's a low bar, but he is the funniest politician I have ever met. He was a son of the South, proud of being that proud of his service in the military. I think his legacy is complicated. I think Lindsey was marked by having lost both his parents very early in his life. He then adopted his sister, who was 13, so that she could get his military benefits. And I think that's why he needed this kind of like big brother, mentor, kind of like father figure. McCain at first, and then Trump.
I'm today just thinking of his family and his staff.
I don't think Lindsey Graham used Donald Trump as a mentor. I mean, that's just my opinion. You know, if you disagree, please let me know, because that's going to be a hard one for me to back up on there.
On Capitol Hill and have dear friends who worked for him for many years, and some of his staff have been with him for nearly 20 years. And those offices become like a family. And so I'm thinking of them. They're in my prayers. And I think it was shocking. No one saw this coming. I got a call from CNN at 4:30 in the morning when the news broke. And my husband said Lindsey Graham passed. And I expected he'd be in public life for another decade. He was seeking re-election. 71 by Senate standards is actually fairly young. But I'll say this, in honoring his legacy today, one thing that every woman at this table agrees with is that Ukraine should be supported in its efforts and its fight against Russia's unlawful and illegal invasion and war there. And he was a staunch supporter of Ukraine. One of his final acts that he was working on was to do crippling sanctions against Russia. It's a bipartisan bill supported by Senator Shaheen. I hope that that's something that the Senate, to honor his legacy, passes and that this president signs into law.
I hope that the legacy that they pass and sign into law for Lindsey Graham is the Save America Act. I noticed how you didn't choose that one. You chose the Ukrainian one because that's what the Democratic Party told you what to think.
Also think that he did have a unique area of influence on foreign policy with Donald Trump. So last week, we kind of got caught up in the news, but Donald Trump announced that he was going to allow Ukraine to have Patriot missile defense systems. This is a huge concession by Trump. He has not supported this in the past. And I believe Senator Graham was instrumental in getting him to approve this, because Trump has waffled on Ukraine, but Lindsey Graham never did. So I want to honor that aspect of his legacy, and I do hope that that Russia sanctions bill passes the Senate.
I mean, I didn't know him well. He had been on this show several times. I remember speaking.
Anyway, bunch of idiots sitting around the table with nothing to talk about. Now, there is obviously conspiracy theories out there that he was all of a sudden killed by, you guessed it, Israel. Here's just somebody, Matt Von Swall. I'm sorry, but Lindsey Graham dying out of the blue like this doesn't make any sense at all. People die out of the blue every day. What are you talking about? It doesn't make sense. It's the life we live. We have him on camera yesterday looking perfectly healthy. None of this makes any sense. Here is, I haven't verified if this was the day before he died, but here is that clip that he's talking about. And to me, I don't think he looks perfectly healthy at all.
I'm going to go with Senator Blumenthal to the Republican and Democratic leader to see if we can find time to move this Russian sanctions package that would give tools to President Trump to help end this war. So when I get back to Washington, I'm going to go with Senator Blumenthal to the Republican and Democratic leader.
He looks a little winded. His color is okay.
To see if we can find time to move this Russian sanctions package that would give tools to President Trump to help end this war.
He looks a little winded there. That's one of the signs of heart failure, right? But he may have had some private medical issue going on for years. I would imagine so. The guy's a sitting U.S. senator. I'm sure he's been screened, and maybe he's had some surgeries or some things that have, affected him throughout the years. I don't know what his diet was like or what he ate. I don't know how he lived or what medications he was on. So maybe it wasn't out of the blue. Maybe he knew he had some sort of heart condition that he had been being treated for, and it just kind of got the best of him. But Benjamin Netanyahu came out on Fox News and talked about what a dear friend he was of Lindsey Graham, and this sent the lefty lunatics into a tizzy, or the right-wing lunatics too, I should say. The lunatic virus has officially invaded the right side of the aisle and infected a couple of maniacs that hopefully will come to their senses at some point, or will just stop dealing with them at some point. But here is Benjamin Netanyahu on the death of Lindsey Graham.
He was such an American patriot. He was unabashedly for America, and he was unabashedly against the enemies of America. And he spoke what he thought. He had a way with him. He had this charming Southern drawl, and you knew something was coming when he would say, well, I'm just a poor old Southern boy. And then he's coming in with the most penetrating insight that few people can deny and that everybody recognizes is the truth. He had a way with him. He was a wonderful, wonderful friend, a great American patriot, and a great champion of the Israel-American alliance. And I'll miss him personally a lot. I really, really thought the world of him. And I think the world has lost a great human being. America has lost a great senator. And we have lost a great friend. He was such an American.
He seems to be well liked across the board behind the scenes. It's sad. It's terrible. 71 is not young, but it's really not old either. And not in our standards, not in our day and age. But the biggest thing, one of the biggest things for the Republican Party is that Lindsey Graham had wanted the Save America Act passed. I think we all want the Save America Act passed. And Donald Trump has made it crystal clear he will not be passing the housing bill unless the Save America Act is passed. And I don't blame him. Here is Donald Trump being asked by a reporter if the Trump administration thinks that the MOU is dead, or the memorandum of understanding with Iran. Now, for those of you who don't know, this is a topic I was going to cover was it Friday night, and then I had my technical difficulties and I had to cancel the show. I apologize to that. And we're just covering it now. A lot has come out about this, and this is not good for the United States. It's definitely not good for Iran. It's not good for conservatives with the approaching midterms. It's not a good situation. But you can anticipate this with the Iranians. The Iranians cannot be trusted. Everybody knows this. Barack Obama said they can't be trusted. Joe Biden said they can't be trusted. Joe Biden even said that the Palestinians can't be trusted. That the Gaza or Hamas or the Gaza Strip, that none of them can be trusted. You know, the Middle Eastern politics and culture does not have much integrity. If they sense any weakness from you, they're going to attack. They're going to come after you. They're going to push you for everything that they can get out of you. So the second you do a ceasefire, what are they doing? They're regrouping. Hamas has been doing this forever. They use the MOU, and then they get to the negotiating table, and they're like, no, we're not going to take away nuclear weapons. We never said that. We never agreed to that. And they start backing up on their word. And now the United States has completely been bombing them and bombarding them with so many missiles, it would make your entire head spin and your world flip upside down if you knew. I think we have some footage of the bombing that's been taking place. But here is the clip of Donald Trump being asked about the MOU. Let's listen to this.
Mr. President, is the ceasefire over? Is the ceasefire done? Is the MOU dead?
It's a very interesting question. To me, I think it's over. I don't want to deal with them anymore. They're scum. You know what scum is? They're scum. They're sick people. They're led by sick people. And they're vicious, violent people. And if they had a nuclear weapon, they'd use it. As far as I'm concerned, it's over. I'll speak to our negotiators. They want to negotiate. They're good people. Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner. But they have to come back to me. As far as I'm concerned, it's just a waste of time dealing with them. They're liars. We make a deal. And if I make a deal with him, we have a deal. And he goes out, he talks. We make a deal. Everyone's agreed. No nuclear weapon. We make a deal. They go outside, talk to the press. They say, we never even talked about it. There's something wrong with them. They're cuckoo.
Yes.
As far as I'm concerned, it's over.
Well, because they're radical Islamic fundamentalists. And they do not care about any honor or integrity. There's no honor amongst thieves. They're terrorists. It's a terrorist organization that's infiltrated their government that has been this way. It used to be a thriving country back in the 60s and 70s. They had go-go girls. And now there's Sharia law and beheadings and stoning women to death. The only language that they understand is extreme and utter overwhelming force of violence and complete and utter total control and use of force. That's the only thing that these terrorist groups understand, including the Iranian government. So immediately, what other presidents would have done or administrations would have done is they would have said, listen, we'll try to work it out. We'll try to negotiate. We'll try to give in. We'll try to do that. You heard Trump. I mean, he said it. He said, no, they're liars. They're scum. They came to the table and they tried to back out on the deal. Nope. Sorry. And then immediately started bombing them again. That's how you deal with these people. And then you bring whoever's left after this next wave back to the table and say, okay, we're going to try this again. Now, we tried to come to a deal before. You didn't want to listen. So we bombed you back to the Stone Age. Now you're a new person. You're a new group. Do you want to listen now, or shall we continue bombing? And then you keep doing that and keep doing that until there's nothing left. And then you got to rebuild it all from scratch, and you finally get to a person who has no ability to say no. There's no way they could say no. That's the only way to deal with them. That's the only way to deal with them. Here is CNN.
Yeah, I don't.
At the round table. This is about Trump ordering new strikes in Iran after calling ceasefire over.
I don't agree that this conflict has somehow hardened Iran even further. I think they were already as adversarial to the United States as they could be. They've been adversarial to us for 47 years. And it was this president that decided to try to do something about it. He also tried to give diplomacy a chance. I concur that, there was always a high percentage chance the Iranians were never going to come to the table here in a meaningful way in good faith. I'm not surprised it's ending this way. The morning that the president signed the MOU, I talked to him, and he said to me, as he'd said publicly, look, if they don't behave and they don't meet their obligations, we'll go back to the military campaign. That's what he has decided to do. And now it may just be time to say, look, we're not going to have some grand peace deal, and we're going to have to monitor these guys. We're probably going to have to hit them from time to time. We are going to keep enough oil flowing through the Strait. We're going to move other oil-producing nations away from reliance on the Strait. They're not going to get a penny in sanctions relief. And, and the outcomes here are we've destroyed their military and turned all their neighbors against them. That's a way to declare victory out of this. And I think that's what the president will do.
That seems like not a victory at all.
They don't control the Strait.
Because they already got 20 days of sanctions relief.
Then they immediately come in and start friggin' attacking them. But that's the only thing you can do with these people. That is the only thing that you can do with these people. Now, they literally have nothing left in their country. Militarily, strategically, they've been completely rubbed down to a nub. I think they just bombed, the United States just bombed the entire Iranian National Guard's headquarters facility. There's nothing left. They've killed a lot of their leadership. This is a funeral from Ali Khamenei's. This happened over the weekend. This is from July 5th. So what, a week ago, 2 weeks ago? All of his sons did not attend the funeral, but nearly 2 million Iranians attended the funeral. 2 million Iranians attended the funeral. 2 million. Now, you may hear that and you may say, oh my goodness, 2 million people. This guy was such a good leader. He was so loved that 2 million people showed up to his funeral. Or if they didn't show up to his funeral, they would have been just murdered or their families murdered and killed. I think there's 92 million people in Iran. That's a lot of people. 2 million people showed up to the funeral. Let's watch this clip. It's a coffin wrapped in, I guess, an Iranian flag. But Iran continues to play games, and they're about to find out. They're going to find out, and they need to find out, because this thing with Iran has been going on for way too long. And I've said this consistently and habitually since I started the show 5 years ago. Iran is the last problem in the Middle East for Israel and for the United States. They are the last problem. There's nothing left to deal with after we deal with Iran or Israel deals with Iran. Rest assured, Donald Trump is going to succeed in this mission. It's just going to take time and pressure and squeeze. All you have to do is squeeze them, and the harder you squeeze them, the better they are at it. Here is, what is this? CNBC talking about the bombings.
If you're pessimistic about how much kind of concessions we can get in this MOU to actually sign on the dotted line, so that, let's say that doesn't happen. How long and what are you proposing? What are you proposing, and how long are you willing to do it? Would you go into another 6 months of really, something like an Iraq situation, like a surge or something? I mean, are we talking boots on the ground? How much are we willing to do? Because I think that's in the back of the president's mind. He's the last person that we thought would get involved in this, the way he talked about Iraq or the way he talked about Afghanistan. And I think a lot of people, it's so fresh, the muscle memory is so fresh in our minds that we want to avoid something like that. And maybe we're too willing to accept a half measure or a half win or something. But would you go in for another 6 months of protracted combat?
I don't think it would take another 6 months. But the real question is, it's not, do we go back in? It's, do you leave Iran stronger than they were pre-war? Are we willing to allow that to happen? Are we willing to allow them to threaten all the ships that go through the Strait of Hormuz? Are we willing to allow them to continue to fund their terrorist proxies? Are we willing to have them go and continue their nuclear ambitions? The answer to all three of those is no. We don't like those answers. But at the end of the day, if you started it, you have to finish it. And this is one where this is not the U.S. alone. We need to get our Gulf allies. We need to get the Europeans. We need to finish this. The Gulf allies do not want.
This is Nikki Haley, by the way. I think I forgot to mention that. She was the former ambassador to the United Nations.
Want to be in this situation right now. They were encouraging President Trump to finish the deal. When he is pulled back, they're not happy with that. Our European allies are not happy with where we are. We need to pull them all together and finish this. This is not going to take 6 months. This is going to take commitment to say, finish the job, bring Iran to their knees, stop with the release of the frozen assets, stop with the sanction waivers, and finish what you started. They were weak already. We had them at the weakest they had ever been. Right. And then we caved. That can't happen.
I don't think boots on the ground are going to be necessary. I really do not. And I think that Donald Trump is not going to come out, and he's not going to say publicly that, hey, we're never putting boots on the ground. He's not going to say that. He's not going to take that off of the table. Think about what Iran's thinking. They're like, okay, all right, well, we got it. We bought ourselves some time with this memorandum of understanding. We can regroup. We can stop getting bombed. We get a temporary ceasefire for 30, 60 days. And then we'll placate them and we'll see what we can get out of them. Like, we're not getting anything. Okay, so then the deal is off. And then all of a sudden they get overwhelming firepower sent to their doorstep. And their leader killed and 2 million people have to show up to the funeral. Then they start talking to each other. And then one of them dies. And then they start talking to other people. And then 3 of those dies. Then all of a sudden, all these people who are giving all this resistance are no longer around. And you're going to get to a person who's going to be like, man, this is stupid. If we don't just come to some sort of agreement, then we're going to get killed. So that's what we need to do. And if we don't come to some sort of agreement, then the United States is going to put boots on the ground. And they're going to completely decimate and destroy our entire country like they did in Iraq and Afghanistan. There's nothing left of Iraq. And make no mistake about it, I know for a fact the plan was, back in 2003, the plan was to take over Iraq and then take over Iran. Control the airspace over Iraq, control the Iran. The Iraq war was a pre-war to Iran. That was the strategy behind it. Get rid of Saddam Hussein, do some regime change, replace the government, and then we're going to focus on Iran. These countries are major problems for the United States and its allies with countless terror attacks. September 11th is just the biggest one. There's been tons of them. There's been the USS Cole. There's been the shooting at the CIA building in Langley, Virginia, killed a bunch of people sitting in their cars. There's been countless terror attacks. Even, the World Trade Center 1 where they bombed it. These things need to be taken care of. And what Donald Trump is doing is smart. He's just bombing them, pressuring them. Yeah, no sweat off our back. We're not losing any troops. Go ahead, send some more bombs. The power of the United States military is you can't even fathom. We have more aircrafts than some of these countries have soldiers. We have more bombs than some of these countries have human beings that live in their country. So Iran responded by striking U.S. bases in Qatar, Bahrain, and Kuwait. Let's look at this. Let's watch this clip. This is nothing compared to what we're doing. These are like little fireworks. That's it. That's their response to being completely and utterly decimated. Now, this was, when was this? July 7th, 8th, 9th, where Donald Trump just completely punished Iran. I mean, I think he hit 170 targets that have just been completely pummeled, like strategic targets. Their U.S. military and CENTCOM and their home base for all of their soldiers. I don't even think they're not even getting control of the Straits of Hormuz. Let's watch this clip of Fox News explaining the bombings.
Trying to control. Swing on over here. Night number 1, 2 nights ago, you had 80 Iranian military targets in their sights. They include coastal radar sites that I just showed you over there, some of these command and control networks, and the anti-ship missile capabilities. Then last night, we had about 90 Iranian military targets occluded a bridge in northeastern Iran, but primarily the similar sites here now: air defense systems, coastal surveillance assets, and these naval capabilities. There have been dozens of these small Iranian boats that have been taken out just this week alone. I'm going to bring Dan Hoffman to join Sandra and me. And
I did a whole episode on that. Let me see if I could find that video. But their little Iranian dinghy boats are a big problem for the Straits of Hormuz and the United States Navy.
Sir, good morning to you. Are we back at war?
Yeah, I think we are. Look, when Iran chose to strike those oil tankers transiting the Strait of Hormuz, that was a deliberate provocation. Iran had to have anticipated the United States response. And they did that because a state of war against the United States and against Israel and our Gulf allies, that's oxygen for this hardline IRGC regime in Iran. I think they also want to test the United States by driving up oil prices and disrupting trade, global trade, with an eye towards gaining some leverage in their interaction with the United States. I don't even know if we'll see negotiations as were planned before these strikes in Islamabad on 11 July. But Iran sees this as an opportunity, especially in advance of the midterms, to gain some leverage.
You know, Dan, this is a post from the Institute of the Study of War yesterday, late yesterday. Iran's behavior after the latest U.S. strikes indicates that the Iranian regime values control over the strait more than avoiding renewed escalation with the United States.
Yeah, because they're all about power and control. That's all they care about. Here's us bombing. So you're seeing 2 bombs. There's been thousands and thousands. Of course, the publisher of this video is saying, oh, the United States has bombed a civilian seaport, just like they did in there. But Iran is just, they're worried about their propaganda. This was back after Israel started bombing Iran and clearing the way for the United States to take out their nuclear facility, something that absolutely needed to happen. And this needs to continue until a deal is made. But this is a news reporter sitting there, no bomb will reach Iran. And then let's just watch what happens.
صدای متجاوز به خاک وطن، صدای متجاوز به صدای حق و حقیقت است. آنچه که ملاحظه کردید، صدایی که شنیدید، فضای غبارآلوده استدیو
No bomb will reach us, except for that one. And that was Israel, whose technology is great, but is not anywhere near what the United States has. And then Iran came out and said they're going to kill Donald Trump. We've heard that one before. Here's Donald Trump. I think this is the video of him talking about that. Let's listen to this.
At some point, but all of it's gone. Everything's gone. Their leaders are gone. They had leaders, they're gone. And they had another set of leaders, they're gone. Now they have another set of leaders, they may be gone. Who knows? And you know what? I may be gone too, because I'm their number one target. It's out all over the place. I'm their number one because they're scum. That's the way they act. And that's the way they've done it for 47 years. But I'm doing what's right for the country. I'm doing really what's right for the planet.
I think he is doing what's right for the country. And he's doing it in a way where we're not going to have thousands of U.S. military troops being killed. I think that's a good thing. And then shortly after this, shortly after he said the MOU is off, and then he authorized thousands of bombs to just completely obliterate them, what does Iran do? Let's listen to what Donald Trump had to say.
And when they hit, we hit back much harder.
Are we returning to a full-scale military conflict, sir?
I don't know. I don't know. We'd win it very quickly. It's another way of doing it. We have many ways we can win, but we've already won militarily. They have very little. They have very little left, and they want to make a deal so badly. They called a little while ago. They want to make a deal so badly. I just don't know if they're worthy of making a deal. I don't know that they're going to honor the deal. That's the problem.
He's being honest. So this is a president who's actually being honest with the American people. He's saying, we started bombing them, and then they immediately called us and said, we want to make a deal. And he was like, I don't know if they're worthy of a deal. I don't believe these guys. We had a deal once already, and now they backed out of it. I don't think that they're worthy of making a deal. I don't think they're honorable. I think they're scum. I don't think that they're serious. So he's right, because that's what they're doing. Every time they get on the roads, oh, we want to make a deal. And then you have turned to make a deal, and then all of a sudden they start backpedaling on everything that they said. And it's a waste of time. So you need to completely and utterly destroy them until there's literally nothing left. You're dealing with, what we're dealing with as a country is religious fundamentalists who do not care if they live or if they die. They actually care more if they die, because when they die, they go to paradise on the name of Allah and they get 72 virgins. That's what they want. That's what they care about.
Want to make a deal? Why do you think they attacked commercial vessels?
Because...
So the question is if they want to make a deal, why do you think they attacked commercial vessels?
They're sort of crazy, to be honest with you. They're sort of crazy. They're a little bit out of control, but they want to make a deal. Badly.
They do want to make a deal, but only to really stop the the madness that's occurring to their entire country. Here is a Fox News report where Iran got caught and just embarrassed themselves on the world stage. Let's listen to this.
The whole strait being closed thing was just a bluff. We sailed 2 destroyers straight up the gap under zero enemy fire. NATO navies could have joined in. They didn't. And remember all the talk about Iranians collecting tolls? More bluffing. Apparently, they weren't able to collect a single toll. They couldn't pull off the processing because they have no banking, internet, or comms. It was just a couple of Iranian sailors sitting on a dock with their hands out. The Iranians strapped for cash, not just to pay for their salaries, but it's going to cost them $250 billion to rebuild. China just watched billions of infrastructure go up in smoke, and Russia watched all the defenses that they sold not even work once. We told you how last night, how the United States is seizing control of the world's trade choke points. That's the strategy. Panama, Hormuz, Malacca. We just did a defense deal with Indonesia there. We have all the Chinese trade routes surrounded by allies. So the blockade we did with Iran, we could do it with China if it came to that. And get this, we just did a deal with the Philippines that's never been done in the history of the world. It's an AI manufacturing zone, over 4,000 acres. It's basically a big American colony inside a former American colony. And it's designed to China-proof our supply chain. Manila gave it to us for 99 years. And they even threw in diplomatic immunity, so no parking tickets. Meanwhile, we're getting a peace dividend from Operation Epic Fury. The S&P and the NASDAQ broke another all-time high today. The Dow's about to hit 50,000, up 800 points today.
I think Donald Trump is setting this up so that the world never has to deal with this again. He is hell-bent on making a historic name for himself and having everybody recognize it. Now, is the guy perfect? No. Do I think he's the greatest thing in the world? No. But I think he's doing a ton of great things. I think even in his first term, he did a ton of great things. And I think if he can handle Iran and if he can get the Straits of Hormuz under United States control, or at least control of our very close and dear allies, we're going to see a better world. You know, they control a majority of the world's oil. Iran does. That's not something a religious fundamentalist group should be handling. You know, like that should not be even on the tables. So here is I don't know if you know who John Kiriakou is. John Kiriakou, in my opinion, I think is a great American. I do. And I will say that. I think what he did and what he sacrificed should go down in history, and he should be rewarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom. John Kiriakou was a CIA agent. Okay. He worked for the CIA. He was an operator or special agent. He was a legitimate spy. And what he did was he got the memorandum for the torture program that was done under the Bush administration. And they asked him to be a part of it, and he looked at it and said, "No, man, this is torture. This is not enhanced interrogation techniques. This is a torture program, and I will not stand for it. I will not be a part of it, and I won't do it." So much so that he became a whistleblower, and then they proceeded to put him in jail. This is a story for another day, but this is his assessment of the Iran conflict. Let's just hear what he has to say.
Do you think the Kurdish play is a distinct possibility?
Oh, I would say the chances are 100%. The Kurds have long worked with the United States. They are brave fighters, pro-American. We've worked with them very closely in the past against Saddam Hussein. We worked with them in Syria against Bashar al-Assad. This is a logical next step.
Okay.
So the Kurds, we worked incredibly close with. I had a very good relationship with a couple of Kurds that trained us when I was in the Marine Corps during the Iraq War. So I had spent a ton of time with Kurds, and when he says that they are very loyal and faithful to America, they are. I mean, they hated Saddam Hussein. We funded them. They fought for us. They died alongside of us. They got blown up. They got hurt. They left their families. Their families were killed to help us. We have an incredible relationship with the Kurds.
There they are doing cartwheels over flyer. That's an interesting training technique. I've never seen anybody do that before. But in all seriousness, what would be the strategy once they cross the border? To draw the Iranian units out, to go straight to the capital? Is it a decoy? Is it security? What would their role be?
I think it's probably the first. They likely couldn't make it all the way to Tehran without significant assistance from the United States. But I don't think that would be the goal. I think the goal would be to capture areas that historically have been Iranian Kurdistan, and to draw the Revolutionary Guard out so that they would be that much easier to strike.
Do you see other ethnic groups move into Iran proper? We're hearing Azerbaijan got hit, and they got some hardcore fellas that have been licking their chops to go south for quite some time.
They do. And, you know, one thing most people don't know, I think, is that there's the country of Azerbaijan, and then there's an Iranian province of Azerbaijan, and they're, of course, ethnically closely related. I think the Azeris were really, really angry when this strike came their way yesterday, I guess it was, and I think that they would be very happy to work.
So sending the Kurds in to Iran is probably, you're going to see things like that. You're going to see a proxy war, essentially, before you're going to see Donald Trump send troops in to Iran. Now, we may send in certain troops, right? We have special forces. We have Delta guys. We have Marine MARSOC, or Raiders, as they're called nowadays. We were called MARSOC back in the day. But the U.S. boots on the ground is a possibility, but you're going to see things before that. You're going to see a proxy war first. And you know, the United States has become so powerful and so influential that we can send other people's militaries there before we do, because we pay them or because we'll give them something in return. Or because they're just going to do what we say. This is what America First would be. Is we're going to send everything and everything before we send in our own troops. And that was a mistake we had made in Iraq and Afghanistan. We brought everybody with us, and we learned a very hard and terrible lesson. You know, the first wave of troops into Iraq were, you know, the best of the best, right? It was our Marine Recon. It was Ranger Battalion, 82nd Airborne. It was it was the elite of elite, essentially. And yeah, they got through it with the help of a lot of air support, but we lost a lot of people, thousands of people. Thousands of these elite forces were killed in this war. And we learned a very hard lesson that day. It's well documented. And I don't think any president would do that again. Even if Donald Trump wasn't in office and Joe Biden was still in office, I don't think we would send our troops in for Iran. You don't have to. We didn't have to for Iraq. We did not have to send troops in for Iraq. We could have done what we're doing here. Bombing, negotiating, until we get what we wanted. That's what should have been done with Iraq. Nobody's happy with the Iraq war, not even George Bush. This is the video I was looking for. Here is the video of the Iranian speedboats, which they have just taken out. I had said this. I did a whole show on Iran. This is like 3 years ago. I did an entire episode on Iran. And I said the biggest problem with Iran are these speedboats, which of course our military knew about. I'm not taking credit for what they're doing, but we've completely taken them out. Right? These little dinghy boats were a major threat, and we knew that. And before we went in and when we started bombing, these little dinghy boats were a main target. But just listen.
Speedboats have become a defining feature of the Islamic Republic of Iran's maritime power in the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz region. These vessels, with their exceptional speed and collective attack tactics, pose a significant challenge to the U.S. Navy fleet operating in the area. In the realm of naval warfare, Iran has mastered the use of high-speed boats to enhance its operational capacity in asymmetric warfare. Western experts and American commanders recognize the potency of Iran's high-speed boats. They view these vessels, especially when employed in massive and rapid attacks, as the Achilles heel of the American military. Despite efforts to design and introduce new systems, the U.S. Navy continues to face a formidable tactical challenge in the Persian Gulf. To maintain its dominance in the region, Iran has invested significantly in the development of high-speed vessels. Over the past 2 years, the Islamic Republic, particularly the IRGC, has achieved impressive advancements in both the quantity and quality of its high-speed boats. This continued investment underscores the critical role these vessels play in Iran's maritime strategy. The concept of using fast boats armed with light and semi-heavy weapons originated from the needs of war and the ingenuity of local forces.
So instead of giant battleships, which they also have to go toe-to-toe with some of the biggest countries in the world, what they decided to do is go with lightweight versions and instead of one giant battleship to go after a fleet of the U.S. Navy, they'll say, okay, instead of one battleship, we're going to make 10,000 of these dinghy boats, and they're light armored, they're fast, they're quick, and these boats can't keep up with them, and we're just going to run around and shoot and poke and prod. It was a great strategy. It was actually a brilliant strategy. And it was working. It worked. And then we just bombed them all and got rid of all of them
equipment
in like a couple of days.
Weaponry initially, the effective performance of these speedboats spurred their preservation and subsequent development. Today, a diverse range of high-speed vessels, equipped with various weapons, vigilantly patrols the waters of the Persian Gulf. In the 1980s, no military strategist could have foreseen that Iran's high-speed boats would become game-changers in the Persian Gulf. These fast vessels compelled the United States to adapt its strategies and incur heavy military expenses in the region. Iran's domestically speedboat, characterized by their weight, speed, and diverse weaponry, have proven to be a formidable force.
Not anymore, because they're all sitting at the bottom of the Straits of Hormuz. That's what's great about the United States. That's what's great about this strategy with Donald Trump. We are not putting our troops at risk. It's something that is not going to... They would have to do something horrific for us to do that. There's no need for it. We would send Israel in. We'll send the Kurds in. You think we can't give the Kurds air support? Of course we can. Naval gunfire support, Israel air support, Israel troops on the ground. We'll do all of that and exhaust all of those efforts before we put our troops on the ground. There's absolutely zero chance that we are putting boots on the ground. I could be wrong. Mark it, flag it. If I am wrong, I will go back and I will eat my words. I've been wrong before, but it is highly unlikely. There is no reason for it. We have drones. Elon Musk is developing friggin' robots. The traditional warfare is on its way to be completely out. We're going to be sending drones against drones, robot dogs against robot dogs, robot people, humanoid robot people against robot people. And it's just going to be, we're just going to be killing each other's technology. That's the future of warfare. That's where it's at. I pray. I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's incredibly unlikely, but I pray that it does not. And I know, I hear it. I hear it all the time. Ryan, it's a volunteer military. I know, I served. I volunteered after 9/11. I was, 18 years old? I joined the United States Marine Corps as an infantryman. I said, I want to go kill friggin' terrorists. That's literally what I told my recruiter. And then I wanted to go to war. I begged to go to war. And then I lost more people that I can even fathom at that age, or that I could even process. And that maybe it could have been done better. Maybe they could still be with us and the mission could have been accomplished. So that changed my way of thinking. Is that the proper way of thinking? I don't know. I don't know. Do I wish they could come over and have a beer with me every day? So I'm totally against boots on the ground anywhere. It would have to be a very bad reason for me to get on board with that. But again, I don't think that that's coming. Thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Go to ryanfsamuels.com. Have you been there yet? You've been listening to the show? You haven't been to ryanfsamuels.com or ryansamuels.com or just Googled me and went to my website and signed up for our newsletter? You should do that. What are you waiting for? The time is now. We will be back live. I think the software actually acted okay tonight. It did not crash. It did not stop going live. It didn't freeze up. So these are good things. Maybe I won't out who they are after all. Thank you. God bless you. God bless our troops. And God bless the United States of America. See you every night, Monday through Friday at 9 p.m.